We are finally getting a new 4-star selector in the Cosmic Home Decor Guide event in Honkai Star Rail's version 2.7. Now I know what you might be thinking, why would I care about a 4-star selector? Well, there's actually a couple really interesting options on this one, so today we're going to go over all 4 of the character options for the selector, and then at the end we'll discuss who the best picks are going to be for a lot of people's accounts, which once again, everyone's account is going to be in a different spot. So I do want to prioritize saying what is going to be the best overall for the most people. First, let's start with Moze, who is still the most recent 4-star character in the game. Moze is a lightning hunt character and his gameplay revolves around the follow-up archetype. Moze has some of the most unique gameplay in Star Rail, as he is not even technically on the field for most of the time. When he uses his skill to attack an enemy, it marks that enemy as his prey and gives him 9 points of charge. When there is a prey on the field, Moze will enter the departed state, which removes him from the field. Every time an ally attacks the enemy marked with prey, Moze will consume 1 charge to deal extra lightning damage to that enemy. Every 3 times Moze deals this additional damage, he will launch a follow-up attack. Upon using all 9 charges, or upon the prey being defeated, Moze will exit the departed state and return to the field. Moze's ultimate will also trigger Moze's follow-up attack, independent of his departed state, which can really help characters who need allies to attack a lot. Moze's traces give him a lot of benefits, which include recovering a skill point once per turn upon using his follow-up attack, an action advance at the end of his departed state and at the start of each wave, as well as increasing the follow-up damage taken by the prey while making Moze's ultimate be considered as a follow-up attack. Now, Moze also has some strong eidolons. Many of them focus on buffing his overall damage by providing crit damage, and follow-up damage buffs. But I do want to highlight his E1 as well, as it gives him 20 energy at the start of battle, as well as 2 energy when his additional lightning damage activates. And this is really good because it's going to make his ultimate come up a bit more consistently, especially since he's not going to be on the field a lot of the time to be giving himself energy with his own attacks. So while Moze is an all-around solid character, he is undeniably only at his most valuable on the follow-up comp. And I'm bringing this up because of the fact that there are not only is a premium character in Topaz that fulfills Moze's role as a follow-up sub DPS, but we also already have a fully free-to-play character who performs at basically the same level as Moze in Hunt March 7th. And this really ends up only being an issue for players who only have one follow-up team. If you're just trying to run like the premier follow-up team or as close to the premier one as possible, if you don't have Topaz or you're missing Robin. But if you either need more follow-up characters or you have multiple follow-up comps you want to use, and you also have both March and Moze a pretty strong investment, they are going to be pretty comparable, and Moze is going to be a very solid partner for pretty much any follow-up DPS, whether they're out already or if we get some extra follow-up DPSs in the future. Which I do think that makes Moze a pretty solid character overall, and I don't want to call him future-proof since he is a sub DPS, but he definitely has the potential to age decently, especially with how many follow-up characters we've gotten over time in Star Rail. Next, let's talk about Misha. He is an ice destruction character whose gameplay focuses on his ultimate. Misha's ultimate starts at 3 hits per action, and every time any character on the team uses a skill point, as well as when Misha uses his own skill, the ultimate gains an extra hit per action, up to a max of 10. Misha also recovers 2 energy each time an ally uses a skill point, making SP management very important for Misha's teams. Misha's ultimate will attack one designated enemy 1 time, then will attack a random enemy for every hit per action remaining. Each of these hits has a 20% base chance to freeze, and the hits per action are reset after the ultimate is used. Despite Misha being a destruction character, this ultimate actually works best in a single target scenario, as you can get multiple chances to apply freeze to that single enemy. Misha's traces give his ultimate some pretty solid upgrades, as they increase the base chance of the ultimate's first hit to freeze, increases Misha's effect hit rate during the ultimate, and will also increase Misha's crit damage against frozen enemies. Then, Misha's eidolons will mainly increase his ultimate's overall damage through some ultimate damage buffs and defensive reduction, but I especially want to highlight Misha's E1. This eidolon gives Misha an additional hit per action per enemy hit with his ultimate. The extra hits per action affect the current ultimate and not the following one, meaning that depending on the fight, you don't actually have to wait for Misha to build up to the maximum 10 hits per action to get up to that maximum. So that could be really good if you're fighting like a couple enemies here and there, because then instead of having to wait till you get up to 10 hits per action, you can only be at like 7, and you could still get the extra hits per action to get up to that maximum. While Misha has a decent kit on paper, he's never really been an amazing character, even when compared to other 4-stars. While he can deal up to 10 hits on his ultimate, the damage multiplier of the individual hits isn't that impressive, and because of this, his damage will not only be inconsistent in multi-target scenarios, but he's also going to take longer to get through fights with 3 to 5 enemies as he relies on his ultimate the most. But in the rare single target kind of fights, Misha's freeze chance on his ultimate, plus all the damage being concentrated onto that single target, could make him a viable option in some content, but a lot of the time, Misha is going to end up struggling to really make a big difference compared to other characters in the game. Next up, we have Xueyi, who is a quantum destruction character and a break-oriented character. Xueyi's damage mainly comes from her ultimate and follow-up attack. Xueyi's ultimate damages a single enemy and will reduce toughness regardless of their weakness types. Her ultimate also increases its damage based on how much of the enemy's toughness is reduced. Now, for Xueyi's follow-up, she gains karma every time the enemy's toughness is reduced by allies, and upon hitting 8 stacks of karma, Xueyi is going to launch a follow-up attack, and the follow-up attack itself cannot stack additional karma. Xueyi's first 2 traces work to increase her damage by giving her a damage buff based on her break effect, and allowing her to deal extra damage during her ultimate when attacking enemies who have over half of their toughness bar remaining. I also want to highlight Xueyi's final ascension trace, as it allows her to overcap her karma stacks by 6, meaning that you won't lose out on stacks if you deal a lot of toughness damage while Xueyi already has most of her karma stacks. Now, when it comes to her Eidolons, they mainly focus on increasing her damage, as well as her E2 making her follow-up ignore weakness types as well. But the biggest Eidolon she has is by far her E6, which decreases the karma stacks needed for her follow-up from 8 to 6. Not only will you be able to use her follow-up attack more consistently with this, but when pairing this with the overcap from her A6 trace, you can get 2 of her follow-ups off in quick succession depending on the situation. Xueyi is a character that I think has a lot of potential, but she's severely held back by 2 things. The first of these is that she was released prior to the Super Break meta that has pretty much dominated the 2.x updates. And because of that, now we have 3 premium break characters that are not only better than her, but can completely blow her damage out of the water with significantly less investment. And this leads into the second thing that I think is holding Xueyi back, which is the fact that she can be extremely annoying to build properly. While the more recent break characters were designed with Super Break in mind, and as such only really need break effect, speed, and attack to be built on them, Xueyi was designed as well not just as a break character, but also as a crit-based break DPS. So in addition to building break effect, speed, and attack on her, you also need to maintain a good crit ratio on a character that is not getting any extra stats for crit in her kit. So juggling 5 important stats on her, whereas most other characters only really need like 3 or 4, that can make building Xueyi way less worthwhile. And if she's going to be performing worse than characters who don't need as much, attention to their builds, or don't need as much like stats to be at certain places in their build, I think that it is not as great to invest in Xueyi, since you can get so much better with less work on several other characters. Now for our last 4-star option, we have Lynx, who is a Quantum Abundance character. Lynx is actually an interesting case because she already is obtainable for free by clearing Stage 2 of Pure Fiction for the first time. Because of this, I won't dwell on her kit too much since a lot of players should already have her, but she is a very solid healer who has a team-wide cleanse, continuous healing for allies, can increase allies' max HP, and has an effect on her skill that increases the taunt value of destruction and preservation allies to play more into their playstyles. So now, let's talk more about her Eidolon, since every player is already going to be able to have her at E0. Most of her Eidolons will improve Lynx's sustained abilities, which is exactly what you want for her. Her E1 increases her outgoing healing for allies who have below half HP, and her E2 will give a one-time debuff resistance to the character healed by Lynx's skill. Then Lynx's E6 will also improve her sustain, as it will increase the max HP increase for all allies, and will also give her a 30% effect res buff, so that she can deal with crowd control even better. Now, Lynx's E4, rather than being a buff to how good of a sustain she is actually a team buff for damage. When Lynx uses her skill on an ally, that ally will get an attack buff based on Lynx's max HP for one turn, which should lead to a bit of extra damage as well. It's not going to be like a super big thing that you gotta always use your skill for Lynx on character because she has her continuous healing, but it could be nice for some extra bursts of damage if you know you're going to be able to do a lot of damage with a character. Just being able to boost it a little bit more with that attack buff, it is very good for Lynx. And overall for Lynx, I do think she is a very strong free-to-play healer, and I really think the only negative we could really say when it comes to her, especially being a free character, is that there are stronger options, not just the premium options even, but we also have Gallagher, who just generally performs better than Lynx. But Lynx can still get through endgame content, she can still do her job, and I think that is very important, especially for players who may not have as many sustains on their account. So we've talked about all of the 4-star options for the selector, and when it comes down to which one you should pick, I'm just gonna keep it real. If you're looking to pick the best option for your account, Moze and Lynx are by far the way to go. Moze is going to be great for people who want to either improve their follow-up teams, or they want to have another follow-up sub-DPS ready for multiple comps, while Lynx is not only a very solid free-to-play healer, but picking her up here guarantees that you have her at least E1, as you already do get her for free from Pure Fiction. As cool as Xueyi is, and as interesting as Misha's kit looks, they really just don't hold up in the current day content outside of very specific cycle buffs that could benefit them, which is honestly really sad for them, since I feel like neither of them really had a chance to truly shine even when they were released. But if you already have Moze and Lynx at max Eidolons, I don't feel like there's that much of a gap between Xueyi and Misha, so I feel like you can honestly choose whichever one you like the most, or if you don't really care about either of them, just pick one of the characters you have max Eidolon and you'll get a free pull worth of the Stardust crystals or whatever those things are called. Since I feel like if you already have Moze E6, you already have Lynx E6, I don't think you probably get that much value from the selector overall. But if you don't have those characters E6, I think Moze and Lynx are extremely good. So that's everything I have to say about these 4 stars for the selector. I'd love to hear who you are planning to choose with the selector, so let me know that in the comments down below. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and if you want to see more content from me, consider hitting that subscribe button. The support is greatly appreciated. But with that, I will see you all next time.